Hi there, Liz Shaw from Shaw Lifestyle here, talking today about the abdominal area and how we work our abs correctly. Now this is twofold. The first reason I would talk about your abs is in terms of core stability. We've looked at this a little bit on other videos, that real sense of drawing the navel back into the spine so that you feel what Joseph Pilates would have called a girdle of strength. So you literally feel that belt around the central area of your spine and you feel steady, you feel stable, you feel held. Now this is important for our day-to-day posture. It's important if you're a runner. It's important if you want to shift big weights. It's important for Pilates and yoga to hold balance. So it's pretty important whatever it is that you're trying to do. In addition to that though, there are other times when we want to work the abs that much more, either into a crunch or something like this when we're creating movement rather than just holding, and or on movements like a plank or perhaps working the TRX when it's more of a challenge to hold. You're not just standing, you're building onto that. So it's really important that we understand how to do this correctly. So let's have a look at it. As I say, when you're standing, you're thinking of drawing those abs into the spine. What I'm going to do is take you through various different body positions where the sense of how we work the abs is a little bit different in each position, and I hope that will help you to understand. So we're going to start on all fours. I'm going to say to you here, very simply, if I'm in this position and I let my tummy just sag, my back is going to give way. And this is what happens at any time when we let the abs just go. Our back is not supported. That's why this is so important. So I'm going to draw my abs into my spine. So if I was talking to kids, I'd say think of a magic button squeezing up into there to create the effect that we want. Otherwise, you can think of a string here. It starts on the belly button, it goes through the body, and it's being pulled up the other side, so that you get that sense of drawing the abs up against the spine and really holding that position, okay? Now, that's easy enough to think about on all fours. It's quite straightforward. If we were to go into a plank, it's the same thing, but a little bit more so because it's just a tougher position. So if we go into a plank on all the way down on the elbows, same thing, squeezing in here so that the abs are held. Massively important. And if you're on a plank on your hands, you're going to get that ski slope. So you're going to be in a slightly different position. The body is not parallel to the floor, but it is still held in that one line and the abs are drawing in to maintain that position. Okay, let's have a think about it on our sides. Slightly different again. Let me just grab this. So if I lie on my side, and I'm popping this under my head so that my head is in line rather than clunking off kilter. Here I am placing, my back is in line with the mat, my one hip is placed over the other. Good way to check that is that your knees should be directly next to each other, in line with each other. If one thigh looks shorter than the other, it means the hips aren't in place. So just bring that one hip stacked over the top of the other and make sure the one shoulder is stacked on top of the other. Whilst in this position, we squeeze into the abs. Even if you're lying flat on the floor, work those abs. Now in this position, as well as squeezing back, we're feeling a little bit the obliques, which is these muscles around the waist. So I want you to imagine you've got an elastic band around your waist and someone is gently pulling that band to squeeze you in, to just pinch in at the waist a little bit. That's going to activate the obliques, which means you've got a stronger basis there. Now obviously when I'm lying flat on the floor, this is fairly easy to achieve. But if I was to start doing some other movement or perhaps a running prep like this to work the hip flexors, anything like that, it'll be that much more challenging. And certainly in a plank. Now same thing, if you're coming up into your plank position, once again hips stacked, shoulders stacked, and here I come. Once again the abs are squeezing into my spine to hold me. That's what's holding me, still feeling that sense of the elastic around my waist as well, and that's what's going to give you that plank position. Still about drawing the abs in. Now in those positions, I suspect you're fairly familiar with that. When it tends to go a little bit wrong is when we come round onto our backs. So let's just roll down. Here we are. It's easy when we're in this position to just forget about the abs because we're lying, we're relaxed. Whereas in fact, in this position, still my abs are drawing down into the floor. Very, very important in this position. If I were doing a very basic exercise, perhaps sort of a bicycle type exercise, here I am, I bring the knees in, I draw those abs down into the spine, really squeezing them down against the floor as I go into those bicycles, feeling the abs working tight. Now that's fairly straightforward. However, if we get into our classic crunches, things can go a little bit wrong, because what's happening now is I'm drawing my head and shoulders up off the floor. And it's very easy because this area is coming up for my abs to start to bunch up as well. So the uppermost muscles here, my six pack, my rectus abdominis, is going to sort of bunch up if I'm not thinking this through correctly. Now that means you're not supporting the spine correctly. It also means you're going to start looking rippled rather than ripped. So if you're looking at aesthetics, it's not what you want. Instead of that, what I want you to do is think first of drawing those abs down into the floor. So really sink them down, root yourself into the floor, belly button pushing down, and keep that feeling of that going down as you then come up off the floor into your abdominal crunch. Drawing up and sinking back down. So once again, although my head and shoulders are coming up off the floor, this area is doing the opposite. This area is drawing down strongly into the floor as if I have roots there. Drawing down in spite of me coming up against it. Now we could take that a step further if you were doing a roll down. If you start sitting up tall, nice tall back, abs still working. They're going to work that much more as I start and go into that C shape, so sort of feeling of being punched in the stomach. Plunk, down I go bit by bit by bit, vertebra by vertebra, I'm going down. And when I come back up again, once more, easiest thing to do is bunch those abs, which is not what we want. We want that sense of scooping out once again. Harder now because I'm pulling up against gravity and because just naturally my head thinks up. This, however, is going down, much as the rest of me is coming up. So squeezing down to start that movement as we come up, drawing tall and sitting tall on the end of it. Okay, last thought, and this is a really important one. If you're doing any movement which involves both the legs pressing away, rather than the bicycles one by one, two legs together, it's even more important to get those abs working correctly. There is a very important muscle right in the middle of us. It's our hip flexors, which are used for all sorts of things. I want you to imagine an elastic band here, big elastic band, tied onto my middle vertebra here. And there's one elastic band goes diagonally until it hits this thigh here, and the other one goes there. So it's like an inverted Y. There you go. And it starts on my belly button, directly behind it on the vertebrae, attaches onto my thighs. So as I'm sitting here, that's nice and lengthened. If I come onto the floor, if my legs were straight, again, that would be lengthened. Instead here, that muscle is being pulled in a little bit because I've bent my legs, I've brought my thigh closer to me. If I then press my thighs away, imagining that muscle is pulling directly on my vertebra. So as this leg pushes away, it pulls on that muscle, What's happening is my back is going to come up off the floor if I'm not consciously in control of it. So once again, as I press the thigh away, although you wouldn't imagine it if you didn't know what was going on anatomically, this thigh, the movement of this thigh pushing away has a direct effect on my lower back. And what can happen is this pushing away can ping that back off the floor. So when we're doing this with both legs and we've got the weight of both our legs plus gravity all the way out there, it's really, really important to think of drawing these abdominals down. So pull the abs down into the floor as you take the legs away. And if you're not comfortable with that, take the legs higher until you get used to it. It doesn't matter if they're up here, it's absolutely fine. It's still about you controlling this area. So feeling the abs drawing down to hold the spine as you press away. What I don't want is what we call an imprint, which would be pressing down too much. Imagine you're lying on the sand. If you're imprinting, you're pushing down so much that your vertebrae are making an imprint in the sand. No. We just want the spine held in its neutral, natural position, but we want to be in control of it. We're in charge of this whole area as we press the legs away. Push, draw back in, and push and draw back in. It is so So important when you're working that double leg press away. Please think about it. Please practice it. Do it daily. It will really, really help with anything that you're trying to achieve with your abdominal work. Hope this has been helpful. See you next time.